You must unlearn what you have learned.
Welcome back to the Backwards History Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Will, here with my co-host, Kevin. What's that, Kevin?
Hi, Kevin.
Shut up, Kevin.
Is that the story we're going to go with?
Is that the story we want everybody to have?
I guess. Well, I mean, they get the story we give them.
They won't look any further than that.
Probably not.
No. They'll just think what they're told to think.
It's not what people do anymore.
No.
Sad.
But here at the Backwards History Podcast, we're also going to tell you what we want you to think, want you to do. We want you to go like, share, subscribe, tell people about us, get the message out. We also want you to go and vote for us for the People's Choice Podcast Awards over at their website. And check out our Teespring at teespring.com/stores/backwards-history-store. Go check it out. We got coffee cups. We got t-shirts. We got hoodies. We even have a mask that says "Shut Up, Kevin" on the front. Personally, like that one a lot.
I'm very proud of that one.
But yeah, if you want to go support what we do here and help us grow the backwards experience or the backwards productions, which we also have the website backwardsproductions.com. Go check it out.
Oh yeah.
But what we're talking about today, this is going to be media manipulation part 2. Because something came out within the last week about a particular instance at it was either a pro-Trump rally or an anti-Trump rally or something of that nature.
Let's call it a Trump rally.
Let's just call it a rally, and that happened to have both sides at it. And one of the people there, or a group of people there, were high school boys who happened to be wearing MAGA hats. And CNN got some footage of a Native American man playing his drum right in front of one of the kids with a MAGA hat with a smile on his face the whole time. And tried to play the kid up like an instigator or like he was harassing the Native American man and being racist, yada, yada, yada. Went on this huge deal of trying to make this kid look bad.
Yeah.
Then the full footage from either them or someone else came out, and it showed that the kid was actually approached by the other guy.
Right. And
they were hassled by several other groups. Purely for wearing a red hat that said MAGA.
Right.
So the kid sued for defamation.
Oh, yeah.
And he won a $250 million lawsuit against CNN.
That's a lot of money.
For making fake news. Who's been fighting to say that they are not fake news.
Fighting really hard, and then you do something
proving that you do make fake news. And there's a lot of instances. I know we mentioned this a lot in the first media manipulation we did. Like CNN doing a fake of them being like in an air raid or something in like Bosnia or something back in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And correspondents supposedly being on 2 different parts of the planet when you could clearly see they're in the same parking lot because the same traffic was passing from one frame to the next.
Like, today's, everybody's got a camera. And so you might shoot one particular segment, but there's probably 15 people around you filming the whole thing. And you can slice and dice it to make it appear how you want. But 9 times out of 10, someone else has the full video, and you just end up looking foolish, in this case, guilty.
Right.
And you lose a lot of money. $250 million.
$250 million. That's crazy. We wanted to talk about some other instances of media manipulation. I know last time we touched on Operation Mockingbird, which is where CIA operatives were embedded in news organizations to basically gear the message that was being sent towards whatever the aims of the intelligence community, air quotes, intelligence community wanted it to be, which included propaganda aimed at the American people, which I feel is ridiculously wrong
Mm-hmm.
and unethical. But, Kevin, I'm going to let you take the reins.
I thank you. With this being part 2 of media manipulation, just to kind of touch on part 1, we talked about the War of the Worlds, where a news radio broadcast goes out of people just, doing a radio play, essentially, of a well-known story, and then the newspaper conspiring to blow it up to try to, because radio was a new medium competing with them, trying to make them look like it's a dangerous medium and that it was causing all this havoc and deaths and destruction, and it a lot of people don't know.
It made people panic and they hurt each other and da-da-da.
Right.
But in actuality, it didn't. It probably scared some folks, but it didn't cause the mass hysteria that they were pegged as causing. Right, and it's one of these things, even a century removed, people still believe that it happened. Right, like until you told me. Mm-hmm. I mean, I didn't look into it, so I assumed, it probably made some people panic, because that would kind of be what you would suspect. But you could see it, like... Right. But, anyway. But the media told me to think that, so I thought that, right. So, following along the same lines as the young man who was, set up by CNN and then, got a nice settlement out of it. About a year or so ago, Clint Eastwood released a movie about a man named Robert Jewell, who went through a very similar instance with NBC. It's in the 96 Olympics, which was over in Athens, Georgia. I didn't know they made a movie about this. Oh, yeah. I didn't know that. Especially not with Clint. Yeah. Heck yeah, I might have to watch this. I haven't seen it, but I've heard good things. I love Clint Eastwood. Oh, yeah. I don't know how you can't. I mean, how can you not? I mean... Right. But anyway, this man was a security guard. And he sees a suspicious bag at the Olympic, with the city they built or whatever, and he calls it in. It turns out to be a legitimate bomb. And anyway, the media starts painting him in a negative light, like he's the prime suspect, and trying to, the story that's going to sell is, did he set this up so he could be the hero? And, really just tore this man's life personally and professionally apart. But he ended up settling. I know from NBC he got about $500,000, but he sued like 6 other news companies, which all were kind of like selling the same story. That's what people wanted to hear, so that's what they told him. Mm-hmm. And so he ended up settling, making a lot of money, and he had his own movie made after him. Sadly, he passed away, I think, in 2007. Right after I graduated high school. So it's one of those things where he didn't get to see the movie made about the story, which exonerated him to the public. Because typically the story of you've been accused of this makes front page news, but the acquittal usually doesn't. Right. No one really ever hears about it, or it's like a little blurb. But right. they'll run like massive hour-long studies of you if they accuse you of something. But then if you get found not guilty, it's like, oh, so-and-so was found not guilty. We were wrong. Next story. They won't ever come out and say that they were wrong. No. That's not going to happen. But like John DeLorean, designed the DeLorean. Right. Car pretty much only famous really was because, one, it was goofy looking. Yeah. And the only thing that ever made it look cool was Back to the Future. Back to the Future. So he was accused of being like in a cocaine smuggling ring, front page news. He fought for years, and then his acquittal like made it to like page 5. Like, so people still have a perception of him like running drugs, when in actuality, nothing to do with it. Tried in the court of public opinion. Exactly. With the mass media pumping out whatever they can get to sensationalize. All right. You're guilty regardless of whether you're proven innocent, because everyone's going to have doubt and then. Oh yeah, it's always. I'm always going to look at you a little, talking about the court of public opinion. Back in the 90s, here in our little neck of the woods in Mississippi, there were 2 men accused of murdering separately these 2 young girls. And the media just, sensationalized it, just demonized these men publicly. And if you go back and look at the evidence or lack thereof, really, and
you start to put it all together, you realize like they didn't really have a case, but because the public had already determined their guilt, they served, I think, a combined total of almost 40 years for something they didn't do.
And then they were released at the end of that.
Yeah, they were released around, I want to say like 07 or 08. But I mean, you imagine spending that much time in prison for something you absolutely did not do, only to later, like, well, sorry, we're bad, I mean, you get compensation financially, but you never get time back.
Time is more precious than money. Now, granted, you could make your remaining time much more enjoyable because of that money, but that long, they'd have to pay me a ton. Like, it would make that kid's settlement look like pennies,
And probably bankrupt the city or something. But yeah,
like I would want to own the city.
But that's the power of the media. It can influence for the good or for the bad. And in the case of those two gentlemen, the bad.
Let's talk about how media, not just news media, how media as in movies and such can also influence public opinion on certain subjects.
I see.
And we're going to go semi way back, but not way back. Around the time when the war on drugs was getting started, or was about to get started, a little movie known as Reefer Madness came out.
That is the legit title, by the way.
It's dead serious. Reefer Madness. I think you can find the whole thing on YouTube to watch.
Terrible acting. Terrible subject matter, because you can tell it's nothing but a political statement piece. And it shows, like, let's take two ends of this coin. You got movies like Cheech and Chong movies. They're goofy when they're stoned. Yeah, just fun, good times.
These people were homicidal maniacs when they were stoned in Reefer Madness.
I mean, like, crazed.
And the whole movie's premise was to demonize reefer, marijuana, weed, whatever you want to call it. It was intended to help push the political agenda of the criminalization thereof.
Right.
Make them look what most people now would consider like the acts of like crackheads or speed, or more recently bath salts.
Oh Lord.
People like eating people's faces and stuff. Now, granted, they didn't do that. They didn't eat anybody's face in Reefer Madness, but they turned into homicidal maniacs. But the whole purpose was to push a political agenda through media.
And the part that always gets me is it was a legit effort to try to, like you said, demonize marijuana. But if you watch it, even when it came out, people just thought it was hilariously stupid.
Right.
Because marijuana was nothing new, in the world at that time. And you come out with this crazy movie and people couldn't take it serious because it was so god-awful.
But what typically pushes these agendas that are pushed by media, whether it be news or movies and such, television shows, what pushes that? Money.
Oh, absolutely.
Whoever has the money and has the opinion, they can pay people to push whatever opinion they want, including politicians.
Oh, yeah.
So, here's something that most people probably don't realize and don't know. And generally speaking, this is true. Most people trust their local news stations more than they trust a national news station. What if I told you that is just as dangerous?
If not more.
There's a company called Sinclair. Sinclair, I believe. Sinclair?
So, yeah.
Or AIR, I'm not sure. But it's Sinclair. Mm-hmm. And they own the rights to the viewership of about 2 million or 2 billion?
2.2 million households.
2.2 million households, yeah. That's through local news networks that they own.
They've spent a lot of money acquiring.
If you've ever seen the videos on YouTube, and I think we mentioned this in our last episode about media manipulation, there's videos of, it'll start out with one news station talking about something, and then it'll pop up another one saying the exact same words, and then pop up another one. And then by the end of the the video, the screen is full of tiny little boxes that are each
the exact same thing.
Right. Each different channels from around the country, local networks, saying literally the exact same message. And the one that actually bothers me the most is they're talking about, one-sided media being put out for the public. Mm-hmm. And every one of them saying one-sided media, literally showing that they're doing exactly what they are claiming to be against. Mm-hmm. But they know that someone in San Francisco is not going to be seeing local news in Mississippi or, Washington, D.C. or whatever. They know that no one's ever going to cross-reference. Welcome to the internet age. Oh, yeah. They do it now.
It's a lot easier now than it has been.
And it just shows the dangers of trusting media and, air quotes, news. Because no longer news, they use the proper term, in my opinion, when they talk about TV service or what's on television. It's called programming. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, I know that moniker's probably not supposed to be as on the nose, and that's not why they call it programming. Right. But it's almost a Freudian slip, in my opinion, where it's literally programming. You're being programmed to feel and think and do as you're told through advertisements, news pieces, the themes expressed in TV shows and made for TV movies and da-da-da-da-da. It's kind of a scary thought.
It is. I mean, and it's not hard to fact check these things. He said now you can cross-reference all this. Right. And it's in this day and age, it's so much easier to, basically point out what they're doing. But people don't. Like
Elmer Fudd running around with a scythe instead of a gun.
Yeah, you're not really a hunter. You're more of I guess a sociopath. Like you're
that's kind of
Like you're trying to kill something in got to be one of the most inhumane ways possible.
That's not even the way that I could see. Okay, if they wanted to replace the gun and keep Elmer Fudd as a hunter, why not give him a bow and arrow? Right. Why couldn't you do that? Why did it have to be something really menacing?
Yeah, it's terrifying.
It's pretty bad. Like if they were replaced it with a bow and arrow, I would have been more okay with it. I still would have rolled my eyes at the fact that they took his gun, right, for political reasons and social reasons. But if they gave him a bow and arrow, get that man a compound bow, he would still fit the character because he's a hunter. I'd have been okay with that.
Yeah, because you have bow season when you go hunting. It's still
exactly.
It's still hunting.
It's still a legitimate character, but it's not anymore. Nah, but that's media manipulation. It is, even on a basic scale.
Gun's bad.
Gun's bad.
Yeah, some people's gets. That's fair.
And we're not even getting into the CV-19 media situation, other than the fact that when everybody's telling you a different way that the numbers are calculated. So you have no real frame of reference?
Absolutely none.
What's true, what's not, what's a legitimate virus. But you really can't tell what's real, what's not, what's actual numbers or what's, it's a very real virus. I have no doubt that it is a very real virus and can be deadly for some. Mm-hmm. The scope of some, I don't know, because we can't get any straight answers out of anybody because there's so much manipulation. I find it highly suspect, and I feel like it's a very real virus mixed with election year shenanigans.
Shenanigans.
Yes, shenanigans.
It's about the only word for it.
Right. But, we're just two dudes with a microphone. We're not experts. We don't want you to ever take anything we say as fact. We want you to do your own research, form your own opinions. Trust, but verify.